If you've had pain from an injury that still seems to bother you many years later, you might find that it's always there, or it's coming back, it's persistent, it's recurrent, you've always got the problem with a particular area of your body, or it moves around to some other area. It could be that it's to do with your nervous system rather than a structural problem, and this is what happened to me. Hi, I'm Claudine, and I spent a year and a half trying to get help for an injury that I had many years ago from kickboxing. It was a groin injury. It took me a long time to actually find somebody to help me in the first place. Went down all the usual routes. I saw the GP, I had physio, I did all of that. And then I went down a different route, which was more alternative therapies. I finally got a diagnosis. I'd injured my a ligament in my groin, and then I'd had another injury on top of that. So it was quite a complex injury. So I was kind of like, okay, I know what the problem is. And once I had that, I felt this great sense of relief that I was finally along the right path towards healing. And then eventually I did heal it. It got better. I was, discharged. You're good to go. Everything's back to normal. Off you go. And of course, I was very active at the time. So I went back into all the things I was doing before, which was running and other kind of fitness activities. But what I discovered was there was still something going on there. There was like this niggle that just wouldn't go away. And then sometimes it would feel worse, and other times it would, just be in the background. But the pain essentially stayed with me. So back I went to the person that helped me, and he confirmed that, yeah, no, there's no injury there. And I'm not really sure why you've still got the pain. So that led me to this great big long journey towards trying to find what was going on in my body. In that time, I ended up having to give up stuff that I was doing because it just didn't feel good for me. It felt, counterintuitive. It didn't feel like I was doing myself any favors. So I stopped doing things I enjoyed. And then what happened was I just started to adapt my body, I suppose. I mean, I didn't give up completely. I actually turned to yoga, and that was a great thing for me in so many other ways, but it didn't solve the problem of this pain with my hip. Even with all the hip openers and all the different techniques, if you like, that you can do to try and help different parts of your body, it just didn't work. I was looking, in the back of my mind. I wasn't kind of chasing after it. In the end, I just accepted that's how it was. But I was always looking for things. And a friend of mine runs an amazing massage therapy school, and I did his training. And in that training, I got worked on in that hip area that I had the problem, and had the most amazing releases. And I was feeling like this is what I need to feel more often. But of course, getting somebody like that to work on your hip regularly to maintain that is not something that was accessible to me. So, whilst it was great, I knew it wasn't quite the right thing. It wasn't me being able to do something for myself. And it wasn't until years later that I found Somatic education, also known as Clinical Somatics. And that was what gave me the answer. Because I knew it was muscular tension. I knew I didn't have a structural problem. And I knew that it was possible to have that release. So when I learned that it's actually the brain that creates the response to the protection against injury in the first place, whereby as soon as you injure yourself, the brain will tighten up muscles around that area. Now, not every single injury, but injuries that especially that are either shocking enough, traumatic enough, but also ones that persist. So mine went on for ages. So my brain just literally learned how to keep muscles tight around that area. And that same tension became a learned pattern in my nervous system. And so what I found was that doesn't matter what I did, whether it was stretching or trying to do certain exercises, it would just offer temporary relief because my brain was just holding that pattern and it would go straight back to that. And this is what happens to a lot of people who experience pain many years after they've been injured or they've had a surgery or some other thing. I also realised, and I didn't know this at the time, but that it wasn't just the injury keeping this pattern alive. It was all of the other stresses and strains that happened in that time over 15 years that was also having an effect. So work stress, teaching, and pushing my body past what my nervous system was allowing it at the time. My body was constantly bracing because of this guarding that was there in my nervous system. And this is the thing, the brain doesn't just respond to physical injury, it also responds to any kind of stress that comes your way. And it responds with a muscular contraction. And if you repeat that over and over again and it becomes a learned habit, that muscular contraction is there, it's learned in the brain. And I was reinforcing my tension by everything else that I was doing. Underneath all of that, my brain was still holding these patterns. And it wasn't because I wasn't flexible enough or mobile enough or strong enough, even though at times that's how it felt. It was because the muscles, particularly around my hips, but also it affected other places in my body, were locked into this protective pattern. So ultimately it was a lack of my ability to actually feel and control those muscles. Somatics didn't ask me to force my body into any particular movement, but it taught me how to listen differently. It taught me how to feel what was actually going on and then how to release the pattern and retrain the movement behind the problem. And once I got access back to those muscles, once I could actually sense and control them again, everything changed about my movement. And I didn't just move better, but I felt safer in my body, I felt stronger in my body, and it affected my mind. My mind was like, yeah, it was on board now. Okay, we know what's going on. And, once something clicks in your mind, you know that you can improve. And that's what happened. So if you're in pain and you're finding that nothing's working for you, just know that it might not be about the particular muscles per se, but more about the messaging from the brain. And I'm going to be sharing more about that in the next video. I'm going to talk a bit more about why stretching is not the right thing to be doing for this, even though it feels like it should be, and that's what everyone tells us. So if that resonates with you, leave a comment below. Let me know if you've been injured and if you're having that same issue. And thanks for watching, and I hope you'll stick around and we'll talk about this more in the next video.